You got to remember, Canada was run by an idiot king for a decade. And the GDP ground to a halt, and 25% of the population there now lives at the poverty line. So Carney is highly incentivized to fix these problems. He realizes that 70% of trade is with 26 states in the U.S. So this is a give and take. He doesn't want to hit August 1 back up to the April 3rd 35% tax. He'd love to cut a deal. I know his team is killing themselves trying to do it right now. And, you know, it's back and forth, back and forth. But a lot of the people involved in it are still the Trudeau-era retreads, because he's got to deal with what he's got. So he may have to get personally involved. The amazing thing about Trump, which is so different than previous administrations, you got to sit down with the guy because he's a very transactional guy. And that's not what they're used to. They're used to sending a team down. They work with other administrative people. In the end, if it's really tight, Carney has to get his rear end down to Washington again. Maybe. And the thing about Trump is he lets people watch the sausage being made. The cameras are in the White House. That freaks out a lot of people.
In this revealing analysis, the economic turmoil facing Canada under years of misguided leadership comes into sharp focus. Former Governor Carney steps in amid a faltering economy plagued by stagnant GDP and rising poverty, a stark contrast to Canada's close trading relationship with the United States. Remarkably, the transactional style of diplomacy that Trump brings to the table disrupts traditional bureaucratic channels. His transparent negotiations and willingness to engage directly creates both uncertainty and opportunity, forcing Canadian leadership to reconsider long-standing strategies.
You know, it takes two to tango, right? But no, I do. I mean, I believe it would be a massive tax cut for the Canadian citizens. You get free military, you get tremendous medical cares and other things. There would be a lot of advantages, but it would be a massive tax cut. And it's also a beautiful, you know, as a real estate developer, you know, I'm a real estate developer at heart. When you get rid of that artificially drawn line, somebody drew that line many years ago with like a ruler, just a straight line right across the top of the country. When you look at that beautiful formation when it's together, I'm a very artistic person, but when I looked at that beauty, I said that's the way it was meant to be. But you know, I do feel it's much better for Canada.
The spotlight now shifts to energy economics, where Canada's vast and cheap electricity supply, centered in Alberta, positions it as a potential powerhouse capable of reshaping regional trade dynamics. Meanwhile, tariffs are evolving from mere trade tools to geopolitical levers, underscoring Trump's adept navigation of complex power plays.
Unfortunately, in the parliamentary system in Australia, Britain, and Canada, the longest you last before another election is 12 to 18 months. So he's got to get moving here. He missed it by just a few seats. And so he's got that pressure. Plus, the Canadian people want to see a deal. They want to get this thing over with because it's so volatile. You can't even buy whiskey in Ontario from Tennessee right now. That makes a lot of people unhappy.
That's one of their retaliations.
But nobody wants that. Nobody wants that. I mean, they want this thing worked out, and Ontario definitely is a huge trading partner. And so I'm very optimistic that Carney is the right guy for this moment, and he will get something worked out. It may not be perfect, but it's better than what we got right now. Let me give you the news from the sovereign wealth guy's point of view on Canada. It's so bad there, it can't get worse. And so they have one thing, because remember, no more capital went to Canada for the last decade. That's why the Canadian dollar dropped. They have one thing that everybody needs: power, unlimited power in the lowest cost for North America. Watch what happens, because I'm trying to figure out in the old hockey analogy, where's the puck going next? It's going to the power. So I'm taking some big bets, mostly in Alberta, where they're very pro, and Burgum made a deal there for only 10% tariff on oil. He was pretty smart to do that with, you know, Danielle Smith, the premier. I got a good feeling about that. Power is what we all need all across North America. And I think that's going to work out. 3 cents a kilowatt hour. You can't find that anywhere in the States right now. They got it. That's hurting cats. You got 26 different constituents trying to cut one deal. Absolutely. That's going to be harder than Canada.
Yeah.
You know, 100%. That's going to be really, really.
You think August 1st?
I don't think that one's. Yeah, fair. He seems to be more. This morning he quelled those kind of August, because he came back from Japan And he said the same thing at the American Pavilion. He said, everybody cool your jets. We want high-quality deals, not fast deals. Because the first time we talked about tariffs in April was 35, 50%, 100%, 200%, depending on what country. That's not what's played out. And the market's starting to see Trump's strategy with a little more clarity now. It looks like what's happening, and this is my interpretation, but I think the market's kind of thinking the same way now. You think about value-added taxes in countries like Canada or in England or in Switzerland or in Australia or the EU. It's a consumption tax. You go to Italy, you buy a handbag, you pay 10 to 13% VAT tax, value-added tax. We don't have that in the United States. Trump has effectively put that in place, and he just calls it a tariff. We're adding a consumer tax right here. So now what I think is going to happen, I think the market's in the same place, is you take a country like Canada, average VAT tax 13%, probably get a reciprocal tax at 13%. If it ends up being 10 to 13% between Canada and the United States or England or Switzerland or France or India, I think the market's okay with that. And it'll get absorbed partly by businesses, partly by productivity, maybe through AI coming in the years ahead. But if we end up at a massive tariff, 35, 40, 50%, that won't be okay. But the market's come to the place where it said, you know what, reciprocal 10% tariffs, we're good. And that's everywhere except China, which is still an ongoing narrative beyond just tariffs, IP theft, access to markets, TikTok, all the rest of that stuff. You know, Fed bashing is what every administration does. It's always fair to bash the Fed, constantly bash the Fed, every president.
Convenient foil?
Well, it's great because it's so easy to do, and every president wants lower interest rates for obvious reasons. However, the Fed independence is what gives America its position as the #1 place to invest on earth. So it would be very, very difficult to have presidents firing Feds. That would not be taken well by the markets, and I think Trump knows that. I think Bessent knows that. But it's always fun to bash the Fed. I mean, if I were the president, I'd bash the Fed too. Why not? But there are some good questions about policy. Why are we paying interest, for example, on bank reserves when half the banks, or many of them, are foreign? I mean, there's a lot of issues here, and I think there's a chance to narrate those.
What we're seeing is more than trade tensions. It's a public showdown over economic dominance. Canada's vast energy reserves have become critical leverage as its economy falters. With daily life affected by border struggles, both nations must act quickly. Success will go to those who adapt fast and wield their energy advantage wisely in this rapidly shifting landscape. If you enjoyed this breakdown, support The Right Angle by hitting like, leaving your thoughts in the comments, and subscribing for more in-depth, fact-driven political analysis. Don't miss the next update as we track how global economic showdowns play out, right here.